The chair recognizes the honourable member for Long Island.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I'm distinctly privileged to rise in this place on behalf of the great and hard-working people of Long Island, whose indomitable spirit is legendary. I thank them, my home people, for the opportunity to serve on their behalf and assure them of my unyielding commitment to them. Mr. Speaker, I am grateful to my executive team. I recently took them all to dinner to fellowship with them and express my love and appreciation for them. And as we move towards fresh association elections, I cannot put into words how much the support and the encouragement and efforts on their part, the advice, how much that means to me. I thank them for all that they have done, and I appreciate all of them. Mr. Speaker, we remain focused on moving Long Island from strength to strength, to borrow the words of President Trump, to making Long Island great again. Mr. Speaker, I would like to begin by wishing the fathers of my constituency a happy Father's Day. I would particularly like to wish my grandfather, Bishop Edward Gibson, with whom I grew up, and my father a happy Father's Day as well. Mr. Speaker, this is the people's budget. So let me say at the outset that I support it. That said, sir, I'd like to first address matters in my constituency. Mr. Speaker, Long Island continues to suffer. Let me rephrase, Mr. Speaker. Long Island continues to face, not suffer, we suffered under the PLP. Long Island continues to face socio-economic challenges due to a slow economy, unemployment, and underemployment. The lack of a fully operational banking facility, infrastructural challenges that have accrued over 30 to 60 years. That said, Mr. Speaker, given some of the initiatives of this government, Long Island is becoming hopeful again. Long Islanders believe that the Minister administration will make Long Island great again. Mr. Speaker, I am grateful to note that our government has pledged to construct a new, fully functional international airport in Long Island during the 2020-2021 budget. I thank the Honorable Prime Minister for making this commitment to the people of Long Island, and respectfully assure him that though I have been pursuing and nagging him a lot, I cannot and will not stop nagging him until we commission our new international airport. So, sir, kindly forgive me in advance. And you know, Freetown and Carmichael, I know I've been nagging you as well. The airport would represent the turnaround that the economy of Long Island desperately needs. Its construction would lead to an economic boom in Long Island, with construction activity likely picking up and new spin-off businesses, from taxis to tour companies to restaurants and bars and fishing to rental cars and so on. This is the stimulus the economy of Long Island needs. Mr. Speaker, we need an airport with a runway 6,500 to 7,000 feet. A decent terminal with concession and other booths that can seat 200 people at any given time, an apron to receive the traffic, and an area for customs and immigration, and of course parking space for vehicles. The lack of airlift is killing Long Island. This has held Long Island back. Our economy has been in the doldrums and it's slowly creeping out, but in need of sustained governmental intervention and infrastructure that will spur private investment. Mr. Speaker, with President Trump now banning cruises to Cuba, this represents an opportunity for us, the people of Long Island. Mr. Speaker, through you, I say to the member for Kalani that both Gordon's and Seymour's, Newton Key, are aptly suited for cruises. There would also be jobs for tour operators, tender operators, crafts, folk, etc. Mr. Speaker, works on phase 1 of the Long Island Water Mains Extension Project is steadily progressing. Whilst the phase covers the island's capital and several large settlements, there is much more to be done. and much more will be done. Water is a basic amenity, and Long Island has been one of a few islands that were denied what I deem to be the universal right, that is the right potable water. In recent months, we have installed 7 5,000-gallon tanks in the southernmost settlements of Long Island. This is in-house work. We've been unable to reach these settlements in the means extension exercise due to budgetary constraints, among other factors. These settlements include Roses, Berries, Mortimers, Woodhill, and Dunmores. 3 tanks are situated in Dunmores. In the Dunmore settlement, our in-house teams have connected the community to the tanks, installing meters at every house and supplying piped water. Many of these persons have never seen running water and gave all too familiar accounts of carrying water in buckets on their heads up the hill.
I love you.
We have already tendered, Mr. Speaker, a phase 2 for means extension works in Long Island. The independent consultants and the Caribbean Development Bank, with whom we have a $28 million loan, have evaluated the bids and recommended a winning bidder, and we hope to award that contract in short course. Mr. Speaker, much like Eleuthera, Abaco, Exuma, and Inagua, WSC's in-house teams have been conducting non-revenue water reduction exercises in Long Island. The aim is to change out leaky pipes and fittings, preserve water, and increase the water pressure, given our discovery that a sizable percentage of water was lost due to leaks. Mr. Speaker, for many years, Long Islanders were promised water from one end to the next. My grandparents are in their 80s and have never had running water. It's our time, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Minister of Works, the member for Carmichael, for his noble efforts to assist the people of Long Island. Our island is suffering from years of neglect and degradation over the years. More often than not, if we don't get something during academic administrations, we suffer and get little to nothing otherwise. Mr. Speaker, over the last year, works began on the Columbus Monument Road. The road is frequently traveled by both tourists and visitors alike. The monument is an historical and cultural site, and the surrounding area is nothing short of breathtaking. The minister can attest to this. Mr. Speaker, this is the site of one of the best beaches in the world. The development of that site would see locals being able to set up stalls and embarking upon entrepreneurial ventures. The Columbus Monument site, as I indicated earlier, is near it's a tourist attraction that is near to 2 of the major resorts on the island, and the location will evolve into an economic driver for local entrepreneurship. I want to also thank the minister for paving the Sims Dock for me. I appreciate that. And also for his issuance of a tender for the reconstruction of the Newton Key Bridge and the surrounding areas. Mr. Speaker, while I don't wish to preempt the member for Carmichael, I'm excited to report that Long Island is in line to receive major road works in the next fiscal year. No doubt the member will expand upon this in his contributions, sir. Our roads are deteriorating, Mr. Speaker. The main Queens Highway and many of our side roads were constructed under the first F&M administration. They have not seen any further resurfacing or paving works from the early 90s to present day, whilst other islands have received at least twice the paving works since that time. We also have a number of heavily trafficked side roads that are desperately in need of repair. I've written to the minister about those: O'Neill's Road, Hogan's Road, Church Street, Harding's Road, Bridgewater, and Dunmore's Road. Some major side roads. As I indicated earlier, Mr. Speaker, Long Island, over the years, has been beset by a plethora of infrastructural shortcomings that has hampered and impacted our economic development. resulted in high unemployment and even higher underemployment. We appreciate that whilst there's much to be done in Long Island, as the country's finances improve, I'm sure more will come to Long Island. And so, Mr. Speaker, to my Long Island people, I say, you can be assured that I've drawn the minister's attention to your concerns, to your need for culverts and sink wells and trenches in certain areas, to the need for a bypass road to mitigate when hurricanes damage the road network, to the need for a community center. And he is keenly aware, and I know he has the concerns of the people of Long Island at heart. As he knows, I am counting on him to help me resolve many of these legacy infrastructural issues that have plagued Long Island for so long. Mr. Speaker, over the next year, I also intend to seek the renaming of certain streets in honor of prominent community leaders. Mr. Speaker, let me profusely thank the member for Elizabeth for impending works in my constituency. That's right, Elizabeth. Your time now. I know this pledge during the upcoming fiscal year to undertake phase 1 of construction and repairs at the 2 major community clinics. That is the McKinsey's Clinic, also known as the Dedmansky Clinic, and the Sims Clinic. For the minister's pledge at our town hall last February, I'm advised that he will ensure that these entities have the capacity to provide X-ray, ultrasound, and point-of-care lab tests. Notably, any equipment presently in use at either clinic is either old or obsolete. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to thank the member for his pledge that his ministry has plans to purchase ambulances or an ambulance for the people of Long Island. We have 2 major clinics, Mr. Speaker, and so I would wish to note here that that would mean 2. For far too long, Long Islanders have had to suffer the indignity of being carried on the back of trucks after accidents or illnesses, sometimes in the hot sun. I remember all too well, Mr. Speaker, given my own personal experience with my late Uncle Adrian, who after a traffic accident had to wait on the side of a road and then was carried on the back of a truck to the Sims Clinic. This is very personal to me. He died that day. I am pleased to note the commitment of the member to the posting of a physician at the Sims Community Clinic. At present, as vast as Long Island is, we have 1 permanently posted doctor, Dr. Yvette Carter. She's one of the hardest working persons I know. She's loved by the people of Long Island. Frankly, a few months ago, Dr. Carter, along with a team of dedicated and wonderful nurses, saved my grandfather's life. Those nurses traveling with him by private aircraft and then riding all the way to the hospital, only for him to almost die whilst waiting. Thank God for the interventions of Dr. Darius Onwala and the member for Elizabeth. At that time, Dr. Carter was running from end to end. At present, Dr. Carter does not presently have a functioning or a fully functioning vehicle. It is important, member for Elizabeth, that she gets that in order to carry out her duties effectively. What's more, I'm also requesting additional nurses to ensure the proper staffing of both clinics, that both of the main clinics remain current and equipped with telemedicine, and an additional vehicle is purchased for the nurses to strengthen home care services to the elderly and the infirmed. Mr. Speaker, though private visiting dentists, such as my friend Dr. Larry Levin, visit Long Island, we need a government dentist to make more frequent and consistent visits to Long Island. I would also request an optometrist, even if roving or coming in once or twice a month, comes to cater to the patients who have eye issues. Mr. Speaker, there's a need for an eye, nose, throat, or for eye, nose, throat urological specialists to visit Long Island, perhaps once a month. Some of the people have cancer and other issues and cannot afford to travel to Nassau. This would also result in cost savings to individuals and families. Mr. Speaker, there is a need for the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture to establish a presence in Long Island. Community sporting leagues are hardly existent and or dead. We're desperately in need of a youth officer. We also have no sports officer, and maybe that one person can do both jobs. The principals tell me that they struggle to keep school sports programs alive. We need a Family Island Sports Council, a Long Island Sports Council. I would also encourage the ministry to reestablish the Bahamas Games. This was a positive move where we discovered some of our nation's hidden gems, our best talent across the various sports. There's a fantastic idea, Mr. Speaker, to hold these games every 3 years. I know that there appears to have been a number of summer camps earmarked for Nassau, with sports such as basketball, volleyball, tennis, track and field, soccer, cycling, karate, judo, baseball, and swimming. Notably, only New Providence, Grand Bahama, Lustra, Andros, and Exuma had these camps. Long Island would also like to throw its name in the hat, so I call upon the ministry to add us to the listing going forward. We would like sponsorship in highlighting our culture and in putting on now defunct Junkanoo events. 10 islands, we noticed, received allocations for senior parades in the 2018-2019 budget. And we hope that Long Island would be the 11th this year. I will be encouraging the schools and the principals of Long Island to participate in Junior Junkanoo. I know that parades are held in the Providence, Grand Bahama, and several other islands. And I want to put in a plug for Long Island at this juncture for seed funding. Mr. Speaker, given the cultural highlights of Long Island, I am pleased to hear of the revamped cultural grant program. I will be encouraging Long Islanders to step forward. We also need more green spaces, community parks, and recreational sites in Long Island. We are in desperate need of repairs and upgrades to our recreational and sporting facilities. Mr. Speaker, I encourage the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture to extend its assistance to initiating a youth band program in Long Island. I also encourage Long Islanders to approach the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture to participate in the Fresh Start program and in the Youth Entrepreneurship program Be Inspired, which offers training and seeks to facilitate the ventures of young entrepreneurs up to age 35. Mr. Speaker, gone are the days when Long Islanders will have to travel to Nassau to renew and or get a passport. During this budgetary period, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will be placing 2 passport kiosks in Long Island. This will save a lot of money, given that one would no longer have to pay for a ticket to New Providence, stay in a hotel, pay taxi or rent a car, and related expenses. I emphasize to the member for North Abaco the length of Long Island, and given the same, he has indicated that he succeeded to my request for a kiosk to be placed in the south or central part of the island and the north. I thank him for his efforts. I note that locals will also likely be hired to facilitate this undertaking. So North Abaco, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, over the next few months, I will be inviting the member for Marathon to Long Island in the wake of the Access to Affordable Homes Bill, now Legislation Act. I wish to assure the member that we are keen to have lots throughout the island identified for housing and commercial purposes. This would allow Long Islanders an opportunity to purchase lots with clear title at a very affordable rate for housing. I'll revert to you in short course. Mr. Speaker, Crown land is an issue of great concern for Long Islanders. There are hundreds of acres of Crown land in Long Island. We are extremely pleased that the most honorable member for Kalani announced that the government will be reviewing and issuing Crown land grants starting in the southern Bahamas. No doubt, there are many applications. Just recently, I was approached by the residents of Salt Pond who are inquiring about acquiring additional burial space at the current community graveyard. given that the current graveyard is near capacity. The granting of crown lands to Bahamians would represent a paradigm shift for thousands, and I believe would turn around the fate of many islands. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased that urban renewal has come to Long Island. Led by Joanne Knowles, the team is working assiduously with limited resources. There's an urgent need, and I say this to you, through you, Mr. Speaker, to the member for Southern Shores, my good friend over there, that there's an urgent need for furniture and computers for office personnel at that office. Thank you, sir. And he's indicated that that is already signed off. So urban renewal, the change is on the way. Urban renewal, also, member for Southern Shores, through you, Mr. Speaker, is in need of a vehicle. Urban renewal in Long Island is to be commended for their work, notwithstanding the challenges. Mr. Speaker, we have one social service officer to service an island that is 90 miles long, or nearly 90 miles long. The provisioning of a vehicle, perhaps another officer, would be greatly appreciated, and I say the same to you, Speaker, through you, to the member for Southern Shores. Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for Marco City for committing to repairing our parking house in Long Island. To Maurice Minnis, Judy Knowles, Daniel Dean, and the team, I say, your days of walking through water in the parking house when it rains are over. Your days of staring up at the sun from your desk to the holes in the roof is over. Let me applaud the member and his ministry for their efforts to establish handicraft workshop in straw production, conch shell carving, soap making, etc. I encourage him to add Long Island to the list of places where these workshops are conducted. We have some of the greatest artisans and craftspeople that this country has ever seen, from Gillis Smith to Charles Knowles of O'Neill's to Miss Major of the Deep South. Moreover, given that Long Island has long been a farming and fishing community, I invite BAIC, the BAIC Pop-Up Farmers Market, to make Long Island one of its stops. We have a local farmers market. No doubt the pop-up farmers market will reinvigorate farmers and perhaps attract the attention of young people. This view could also translate to the proposed training programs for food processors. In the coming weeks, I intend to write to the member and the new chairman of BAIC to encourage BAIC to come to Long Island and offer classes to teach islanders how to preserve fruits and vegetables and make jams and jellies, straw craft, and so on. Mr. Speaker, raising the amount that farmers are paid at the parking house would likely encourage more young Long Islanders or young family islanders to see the economic benefits of farming to get involved. Given the fact that the local department head's vehicle no longer works, I'm requesting of the member through you, Mr. Speaker, consideration for a new vehicle. Mr. Speaker, fishing is a major economic lifeline in Long Island. I fully appreciate the fishing community's concerns about poaching and poachers robbing them of their catch by pillaging traps. Let me also commend, again, the member for Marco City for the decision not to grant compressor permits to any foreign national or any vessel during the off-season. Mr. Speaker, fishermen are concerned that we have boats fishing these waters with a Bahamian captain and an entirely Dominican crew. We must take a second look at curbing and or removing the presence of these persons on Bahamian boats. Commercial fishing should be strictly reserved for Bahamians. Speaker, we must ensure that our fishermen are not encumbered by bureaucracy in getting duty-free concessions to upgrade their boats and equipment. Mr. Speaker, fishermen have expressed to me grave concerns about alleged marriages of convenience by Dominicans to Bahamian women. Fishermen argue that it is sometimes difficult to believe that Dominican divers, more so than Dominican carpenters and masons, are falling in love and getting married in the Bahamas. Divers more than anyone else. Mr. Speaker, the American Immigration and Naturalization Service, they are famous for sudden pop-ups and questionnaires to couples, some of whom they have suspected of marriages of convenience. One wonders if our immigration authorities question these folks as well. Employ some of the same strategies, pop up on them, unannounced, ask questions. Where do they live? How do you communicate if one person speaks Spanish and the other speaks English? How do you overcome that barrier? Don't give them no excuse. Mr. Speaker, I applaud the Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources for looking to employ new fisheries officers, and I look forward to chatting with the member further about that. And lastly, let me also applaud the ministry's launch of a national divers training program. I encourage my constituents to take advantage of such opportunities for a comprehensive certification as a diver. This is the capacity building that we need. While at it, Mr. Speaker, let me also encourage Bahamian fishermen, especially those from Long Island, to engage in more deep-sea fishing. I have noted the price of fish such as wahoo and tuna and so on. They fetch high prices in places like Japan. Mr. Speaker, there's a lot of potential in Long Island for large-scale farming. A lot of potential. And I call upon Long Islanders, Long Island fishermen and farmers to come together and form cooperatives. We must continue to encourage and play an even greater role in supporting light manufacturing. I support sailing becoming a national sport or the national sport. I also support the implementation of sloop building programs so that this craft is shared and passed on for generations to come. Long Island would be happy to launch such a program, member for Marco City. We have produced some of the greatest boat builders and sailors in Bahamian history, with building legends and sailors such as Mark Knowles willing to pass on their profound knowledge of the craft. Mr. Speaker, continue to have some challenges. The Road Traffic Department, we are unable to print driver's licenses, and I continue to encourage my colleague, the member for Bamboo Town, to assist us with ensuring that that is done. I believe he has indicated that that is on the way. Mr. Speaker, I also want to note that we are in need of some slight repairs at our post offices on Long Island. Mr. Speaker, there's a lot I can say about Long Island, a whole lot. But if I do, I'll be in for another 15. I'll be in for some time, Mr. Speaker, and I have only so much time allotted. However, I do call upon the government to assist with getting a bank to Long Island. We have no bank, and over the last few days, there's been several robberies in Long Island. I understand that Island Luck has been robbed of some 10,000, Midway Food Store, the Midway Restaurant and Bar, etc. So I'm calling upon the government to cause the Bank of the Bahamas to come to Long Island. We just had a regatta, Southern Shores. Our island is, or perhaps the only major island without a bank. It's an urgent need for business houses, government agencies, the elderly, and everyday Long Islanders. Scotia is not fully operational. You can use an ATM, but that's about it. I also would support and encourage local Bahamians being given bank licenses. You know, the Canadian banks are generally withdrawing from our islands, places where they've operated for 50 to 100 years. And I've always been curious, Mr. Speaker, as to how the American commercial banks have not come to the Bahamas and or have not been encouraged to come back to the Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of education, We could do with a few additional teachers for the next school term. But I would also encourage, Mr. Speaker, the streamlining of schools. There's no economic rationale for all the schools that we see in some instances. And one such approach could be a combined high school member for South Beach. Let me also note that we have persons in Long Island who have been appointed to positions, and every other day I hear from them, and they've indicated that they have not been confirmed in those positions. And so I would request and ask and seek the confirmation of these persons. And the member for South Beach, I'll be speaking to you, and the member for Garden Hills separately later on this evening and thereafter. Mr. Speaker, we need special education teachers on Long Island. Hardly anything is in place to cater to special needs children. We have special needs children on Long Island who are kept home and hidden by their parents, who simply cannot keep up with regular classes. And then, of course, as I move forward, I just want to address one final issue relating to Long Island. That is the issue of policing. I want to praise my good friend, the member for Mount Moriah. He's perhaps one of the best ministers of national security we've had in a long time. And I had him perhaps ever but scorched it out. Maybe I should have left it scorched out. But I want to assure the people of Long Island of my confidence that the member for Mount Moriah will address our policing concerns. The member for Mount Moriah, I have the greatest confidence in you, as you are aware. The police are experiencing gross manpower shortages on Long Island. So I've spoken to some of the officers and been advised that 2 officers have just resigned to pursue other interests, including tertiary education. A few others either retired or transferred in recent years and have not been replaced. So we are looking, based on my conversation with them, for 3 constables in the north, 4 constables in the south. The Edmondski station is earmarked to be open 24 hours a day. And this would see to the smooth transitions in terms of shift changes. 2 jeeps, 1 for the north, 1 for the south, 1 truck, giving you their wish list, sir. A full slate of firearms, repairs to the Sims police station, and an overall budgetary increase for Long Island as it relates to prisoners' meals and so on. It's very important, oh yeah, we do, believe it or not. Very important also that we put a police station in South Long Island. In South Long Island. You know, as you know, the Clarence station was damaged by Hurricane Joaquin, and we have recently had the closure of the Morrisville Primary School. This site will provide an adequate option for a police station to be situated in the South. Mr. Speaker, let me applaud the government for wisely amending the Business License Act, which will allow for business houses to renew licenses at different points of the year and lend to the ease of doing business. I also support the reduction of duty on hybrid vehicles and encourage that these duties be applied to the purchase of newer vehicles across the board. Mr. Speaker, there are many persons who are gifted property but are not able to register that property due to stamp duties. There are many persons who have transferred mortgages, even to family members, and were hit with stamp duties. I'm extremely pleased to note that we've amended the Stamp Act to exempt these transactions, among others, from the payment of stamp tax. I commend the government, sir. Mr. Speaker, in Long Island we welcome many tourists throughout the year. Some of them come, they buy homes, or they build homes. And what has happened, Mr. Speaker, is persons have gone into home rentals in Long Island. For me, and I've heard many a complaint from the hotels, from the Bahamian bed and breakfast operators down there, who speak about having to compete with second homeowners. whilst I appreciate the fact that we will now be charging VAT at the point of business and that these persons will be contributing something, Mr. Speaker, there remains the loopholes. One of the loopholes is persons can just go and pay directly into U.S. bank accounts. I can pay you when I get to the Bahamas. So these are all avenues that we must close off as well, because if we're looking to just charge VAT at the point of business, they will adjust their approach to it. And I've seen this happen, Mr. Speaker. I've heard Long Islanders complain about this. Let me also note that we have a lot of so-called yachties who make thousands of dollars from having private fishing excursions in our archipelago without paying a dime, filleting fish out to sea, and boldly sailing into the U.S. with loaded coolers. That's unacceptable. In our manifesto, I believe we pledged to mandate GPS tracking on all Bahamian registered boats. That would greatly assist, I believe, in the enforcement and flagging those who breach Bahamian law. And so, Mr. Speaker, we have a situation in Long Island where you have second homeowners, they rent the house, they turn around and they rent a car with the house, thereby taking out the rental car operator. They rent a boat with the house, thereby taking out the tour guide and the tour operator. And in addition to renting that boat, they rent the GPS apparatus with the coordinates already set. And then they rent the house loaded with grocery. So nothing comes to the community. Nothing comes to the community. They bring the groceries in. Nothing comes to the community. That is, these are the loopholes. Okay? And then, Mr. Speaker, they compete with the hotels. And if the hotels downsize, you know why? Because the hotels have to pay the various taxes, and they pay nothing. They pay nothing. And so even with them paying the VAT at the point of business, which will be Airbnb and so on, they probably try to get around that. There's so many points. There's so many points. You can do direct deposits. You can do direct deposits. You can pay at the point when you reach. You can pay there. And everybody is their family. That's my brother. Mr. Speaker, we have embarked on a reformist agenda at the Water and Sewers Corporation. Our goal is to transfer the corporation into an efficiency, customer-focused organization that provides, an efficient, that is, customer-focused organization that provides quality service and enjoys a reputation for consistently high performance. Let me begin by thanking the board of the corporation, Deputy Chair Diane Wallace-Whitfield, Mr. George Carey, Mr. Bennett Minnis, Mrs. Nicola Russell Pettigan, and Mr. Carl Oliver. Mr. Speaker, I have the good fortune, Mr. Speaker, I have the good fortune of working with a great man, a superb minister. I have the privilege and honor of serving with and being mentored by someone who was a mentor for me prior to this. One of the greatest ministers in the history of this country. And I'm being frank with that. He's a statesman, Mr. Speaker. A statesman. He's on the side of me right now. You know? Precise. Never rattled. And always giving sound advice. I want to thank the Honorable Member for Carmichael for the trust and confidence he has reposed in me. I also want to thank the Prime Minister for the trust and confidence he has reposed in me. Mr. Speaker, last year we appointed a new general manager, and over the course of the last year we appointed a new CFO. We've developed a sewer and strategic planning and coordination division and identified persons to head these areas. We will be undergoing further adjustments and restructuring, and I'll speak more to that in the future. Mr. Speaker, WSC has undertaken major works throughout the Family Islands. We have completed works in Pinewood Gardens, Nassau, at the cost of $2.2 million. This is the CDB works. We have completed works at Coral Lakes and Boatswain at the cost of $1.2 million, again, CDB. We are presently undertaking phase 1 the Long Island works was 60% completed. We are undertaking works in South Andros, 5.5 million. That's 85% completed. We've completed and commissioned works in San Salvador, 1.3 million. Virtually all of San Salvador is running water, Mr. Speaker. We have tendered, for the first time, we have tendered, where's my minister? Give me those. This is Long Island, Minister. We have tendered works, new works for Long Island. We've tendered works for Crooked Island. And guess what? The member for Michael will be accompanying me, where is she, to Crooked Island tomorrow morning to sign a new water contract. Crooked Island. Mr. Speaker, you know, the member for Golden Isles, I'd like to borrow your saying, oh, Cat Island, oh, Cat Island. Mr. Speaker, today, Cat Island is the only island that does not have an inch of pipes. Notwithstanding the fact that they had a DPM and a Minister of Works during the last administration. Not an inch, Mr. Speaker. Not an inch, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are revising the scope of works for Cat Island and intend to tender that project shortly. Mr. Speaker, whilst everyone else woulda, coulda, shoulda, almost did, this government delivers. Stop my time.
Honorable member.
A couple seconds for me.
Honorable member, the chair recognizes the honorable member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador. On a point of order.
Speaker, now I sat and I listened. The point of order is that the member is conveying an impression that we sat and did nothing in respect. The impression is conveying that he is doing things that will not be done. And that is not correct. Mr. Speaker, the point is that
Honorable member. Yes. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Cat Island. Continue.
Speaker. Truth be told, you know, I had the occasion to praise this young man, but look as though it was probably premature on my part. Premature, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the truth of the matter is that what he is executing is things started, Mr. Speaker, started in 2000. There was a report was done. There's a Family Island water improvement project. Well, first of all, there's a water improvement project, right? That was a study done in 2011 in June 2011. A study was done. Nothing. When we
Honorable member.
correcting the impression, the wrong impression being conveyed by this member. And
Honorable member for Cat Island.
Speaker,
The member for Long Island, from my understanding of what he's represented, was that there's not an inch of pipe in Cat Island.
Mr. Speaker, see,
Honorable members,
Mr. Speaker, but you see, This is just
Honorable member for Long Island, please don't
this is
mistake.
the challenge. This is a challenge. This is the challenge that we have with you, sir. You always tend, when the member over there was misrepresenting what I said, you never interrupted. Speaker,
Honorable member.
I am addressing him. I said he's misrepresenting. He's conveying. You are saying what he said.
Honorable member.
He said, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
First of all, resume your seat for a second. You are, in my estimation, attributing to the chair something that is very infactual. Because you are accusing the chair of suggesting what the member said when other persons say things and the chair neglects to do so. And that is not correct. That is, resume your seat a minute. That is not correct. On numerous occasions, I request of members exactly what they said and to ask whether or not what I understand was consistent with what they said. I do it across the board for the opposition as well as for the government. And while I am on this matter, let me just make this statement because I just received from social media again some false reports of the facts. Now, I don't rely too much on social media because I know social media produces a number of fake and false stories. But I want to put on the record of this parliament so that no one can be falsely accusing the chair of denying any member his rights in this parliament. Now, Rule 46, subsection 4, with respect to the limits for debates, because someone has sent me something on social media which suggests that I am denying as the presiding officer, the member for Cat Island, Rumpke, and San Salvador, the opportunity to speak for 2 hours as opposed to 1. I just received that. So I want to read into the records the rule which says during a budget debate, the Minister of Finance may speak for 3 hours, ministers for 2 hours, the lead spokesman for the opposition, who was represented to me as the member for Exumas and Ragged Island, 2 hours, and all other members may speak for 1 hour. So if a member is given 1 hour who does not fall into the category of the Minister of Finance, any minister or the lead spokesman for the opposition, the chair is within the rules in granting that time. Now I want to commend the leader of the official opposition, the member for Cat Island, who spoke for 1 hour and did not even request an extension. He obliged with the rules, and so I want the media in particular, the mainstream media, who seem to be putting out fraudulent misrepresentations in their headlines that are inconsistent with the stories that follow, to desist with that practice. And now, honorable member for Cat Island.
Mr. Speaker.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Cat Island, Rumpke and San Salvador.
What concerns me is this. Right? You purported to repeat what my objection was, and that is that the member was saying for all these years not one pipe, one inch of pipe is in Cat Island. But that was not what I was objecting to.
No, honorable member, for clarification, my question was, The member for my understanding was that the member for Long Island said,
He said a lot of things.
just let me finish. He said that there was not 1 inch of pipe in Long Island, in Cat Island.
Yes?
My question then, before you interrupt me, my question then would be to you, is are you denying that? Because if you're rising on a point of order, if he's alleging something, your point of order should be in denial of what he's alleging.
Yeah, but Mr. Speaker, but then you see that is the problem right there, Mr. Speaker. Therein lies the challenge. Because you assume that my objection related to that statement, and it was not.
But I'm asking you, because you didn't say.
I said, Mr. Speaker, I said that he is conveying a wrong impression.
With respect to
And if you
what?
had allowed me to say what that impression was, you would have understood. But everyone was...
Honorable member.
You have your adoring...
Honorable member for Cat Island, Ron and Salvador. I'm affording you the opportunity now
Thank you,
to say what your objection was.
Speaker.
Be specific.
Yeah, the objection is that the member, by his contribution, right, is suggesting, right, that this member and the government never did anything, never did anything to lay pipes in water in Cat Island. That's the impression he's giving, right? That's the objection. And the truth of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, it was I, right, who negotiated the loan from the Caribbean Development Bank that was eventually signed in 2016 to enable him to be doing what he's doing today. That's the point, Mr. Speaker. Right? And, Mr. Speaker, and unlike those opposite, right, it was a study that was done by the F&M government in 2011, that in June 2011, that nothing was done. It was put on the shelf. We took it down off the shelf and when I took over from Ministry of Works. And from then, we then went and negotiated. The amount of funds we borrowed was $28 million. The project is $41 million. It was a $41 million project.
Honorable member.
Right? And this member stopped the work that was going on in Cat Island.
Honorable
I
member.
would have been there had he not stopped it. He stopped it. He stopped it.
Honorable members. The chair recognizes the honorable member for East Grand Bahama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, be specific
Yes, please.
on your point of order.
The member indicated just now that the CDB loan that facilitating all of this work that is being done was signed under or negotiated under the former administration. That is incorrect, Mr. Speaker. That the CDB loan was just executed about 3 months ago, 27th of just recently. No, it wasn't negotiated either. Well, I'm trying to help you here.
Execute the laying of pipe.
Mr. Speaker,
Honorable member. Honorable member. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Cat Island, Rum Keynes, and
Thank you,
Salvador.
Mr. Speaker, the Pinewood Gardens water project he announced just now. The Bosween water project he announced just now. The San Salvador project he just announced. The South Andres project he just announced. All that was done as a part of the water improvement program. And all of that came from the overall project of a $41 million. It was a $41 million project, right, of which we were to borrow $28 million from, and all that was done in 2016, Mr. Speaker.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Long Island.
Mr. Speaker,
Continue.
Mr. Speaker, I know all kind of voice notes could be cussing me out tonight. Mr. Speaker, I've just conferred with the member for Carmichael. And I can confirm, Mr. Speaker, once again, that notwithstanding the fact that the member for Cat Island, Rum Keynes and Salvador, was the Minister of Works, not an inch of pipe was there. It's the people of Cat Island's time, Mr. Speaker. Isn't it the people's time, Member for Cat Island? You should say it's the people's time. Mr. Speaker, we don't sell pipe dreams, we lay pipes. Even Cat Island must agree, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this woulda, shoulda, coulda, almost dead opposition will say, oh, we started this and that, as you just heard from him. Oh, we did this and that, but you all heard when he said the study was commenced in 2011. Who was in office in 2011? 2011, he just admitted it. Mr. Speaker, 2011, Mr. Speaker, WSC has oversight of 26 islands and keys, 50 water production systems, 27 reverse osmosis sites, 25 well fields, and 22 commercial offices. We have a number of other operational offices. Mr. Speaker, we have undertaken substantial in-house works throughout the Family Islands over the last year. We've improved service laterals, extended coverage, improved operational efficiency. And I can say, Mr. Speaker, as one who grew up without running water, having to bathe with the residue being left on my skin, he who feels it knows it. Mr. Speaker, we are acquiring a standalone RO plant for Crooked Island. We're doing the same thing for Acklands. We've completed 12 mains upgrades, lateral replacements, NRW work, and projects in South, Central, and North Eleuthera. We have approved an additional 10 projects for South, Central, and North Eleuthera. We have completed the Cedar Harbor well field refurbishment and expansion in North Abaco, replaced the force main in Treasure Key, Abaco, improved the lift station and backup generation in Treasure Key. A new oil plant for South Andros is on the way. Installations of new mains in Nicholstown and Master Point, North Andros. We have secured and fenced reservoirs in Central Andros. We purchased, own, and operate a new oil plant in Ragged Island. We were the first on the ground following Hurricane Irma. We installed new mains in Dunmores and Grays, Long Island. We were the first on the ground. While they complained, we worked. We installed community tanks in South Long Island, installed new laterals in North Acklands, upgraded the Lovely Bay wellfield system, and we have, in progress, Mr. Speaker, upgrades to the wellfield in the Berry Islands. The equipment has already been shipped. We have a number of pending in-house projects for Long Island, Exuma, North Abaco, Russell Island, Barmsey and North Andros, the Berry Islands, Cat Island, Acklands, and Eleuthera. During my tenure, Mr. Speaker, we have formed a small in-house project implementation of multiple teams, actually. These teams specialize in addressing non-revenue water, small projects, and system maintenance optimization. There's also a roving collections team. WSC is currently preparing a cabinet paper to seek central government funding for the water supply system for Miller's Heights. Mr. Speaker, WSC, that's right, Southern Shores, WSC has also collaborated with the Ministry of Works prior to road paving exercises throughout New Providence, from Farrington Road to the Eastern Road, to Burnett Road, to Beatrice Avenue, to Pinewood, to Seabreeze, to West Bay Street, and so on. Mr. Speaker, since being appointed, I've noticed a number of bad contracts for the corporation. Our research has shown that we can purchase a brand new plant ranging from 2,500 gallons per day to 20,000 gallons per day, for prices ranging from $15,000 to approximately $45,000 to $50,000. This is with WSC owning the plants, Mr. Speaker, outright. The bulk of WSC plants range from 2,000 gallons per day to 10,000 gallons per day. However, beyond the high cost of water, It is unsustainable for WSC to pay for a plethora of additional, questionable, and onerous costs associated with water contracts. Mr. Speaker, we have discovered contracts where WSC provides the land, pays for the consumables used like chlorine, assists with the maintenance and operations of plants, for example, changing out filters, even paid the salary of a private company staff member in Ragged Island for 15 years, paid for any and all electricity used by these plants, provide the buildings for the plants to be situated on, pay for any and all building maintenance costs for the buildings and the yard maintenance costs, pay for the drilling of all the wells, including the water supply well and the disposal well, which our hydrologist has told me would cost $300,000 for drilling contract, provides the backup generation, pays for the fuel for all the generators, pays for all the setup fees and labor costs, including technicians going in, separately pays for the distribution pumps on construction and any failures, pays for all storage tanks, pays for the construction of all plinths that the plants are on, pays for all automatic transfer switches and power connections, exempts the operator from all customs duties and shipping costs, pays for and provides for, in some instances, work permits, pays for any and all emergency trips required to fix the problem, and pays for meters to be installed at the plant. So what do the operator do? What does the operator do? They just collect the money. They put the plant over a well, bring up the water, our water, on our land, and just collect. Let me emphatically state that WSC will not be renewing these contracts. We currently have about 15 expired contracts. WSC is moving to standardize all RO contracts and have been in talks to engage the services of a well-respected international RO consultant. Have also formed an RO unit, and this unit is comprised of hydrologists and specialist RO engineers and technicians. Speaker, last year, I believe it was last year, a plant went down. BEC turned them off, BPL, for a $200,000 bill that WSC was paying, included in their remittances, the electricity bill, and they didn't pay. Some time ago, the government awarded the plant in North Lutra to a noted international RO operator. Notably, the plant is well behind its completion delivery date, which was 22nd of January. As such, WSC has applied the contractual clauses and notified the contractor of liquidated damages of $500 per day, which will be applied from January 22nd and continue until delivery. Mr. Speaker, many of the larger RO operators have take-or-pay clauses built into their contracts. And what that essentially means is if WSC does not use the water, it still has to pay for it. That's what it means. Absolutely. It is unfortunate that a previous iteration of WSC management and government agreed to such gross and disadvantageous contracts. Many contracts have been watered down in favor of the contractor. Mr. Speaker, let me say here, on the Family Islands, we have spent $80 million in RO plant services, operations. In New Providence, between 1997 and present day, we have paid Consolidated Water $304 million. As at the 16th of May 2019, total Consolidated Water invoices totaled or stood at $12 million. And that's outstanding, the outstanding invoices. WSC also pays, believe it or not, property tax for these operations. Mr. Speaker, when one calculates the amounts paid, this is tantamount to enough RO plants to run the entire Bahamas and then some. At present, the only two plants owned by WSC were acquired under my tenure, Sweden's Key and Ragged Island. By owning these plants, we have saved $200,000 per year. $200,000 per year. $200,000 we have saved. We have saved. Oh yeah, we have Ragged Island too. Mr. Speaker, I want to also note that we have a But we have an unfunded pension liability of some 90 million, and the board and the ExCom will soon be conducting an actuarial review with the aim of finding avenues to address the same. We continue to carry out a number of capital works from loan funds and monies generated internally. One such fund is the $28 million loan from the CDB. Mr. Speaker, WSC is currently owed $31.9 million for water purchases in New Providence, $7 million for sewage usage in New Providence, $6.5 million for water purchases in the Family Islands, and $23,000 for sewage usage on the Family Islands. The total is some $45.9 million. We've been working assiduously to collect these monies, and I have directed the General Manager and the Finance Division to conduct a review of all accounts, determining those that can be collected, written off, and pursued via the courts. Mr. Speaker, we are currently undertaking a yearly audit. We will also be undertaking an asset and liability assessment in short course. In 2017, WSC's assets were listed at $327 million, and liabilities are $223 million. WSC is an incredible asset, Mr. Speaker, but for many years has had a poor balance sheet and been beleaguered by bad deals. Over the next few months, we will be approaching the government via our minister for support for a bond facility, much as was done with the Jamaican NWC, where they raised some $270 million. We believe that such a bond facility would transform the entity into a viable asset for long-term investment, and also allow WSC to refinance and pay off a significant portion of high-interest rate, foreign currency-dominated loans. Mr. Speaker, most certainly there too. Mr. Speaker, there's also future value to WSC entering public-private partnership arrangements, where project financing can be raised. This will encourage mutually beneficial private sector participation. We no longer live in the analog age, Mr. Speaker, and so WSC must transform. In recent months, I directed WSC to embark upon a digital transformation journey. This digitization, I believe, will transform the water sector, accelerate the adoption of digital solutions in addressing critical global water challenges such as climate change, population growth, aging infrastructure, and increasing urbanization. It will drive sustainable water and wastewater management and heighten efficiency. The idea is to create an innovation culture, to embark upon pilot projects as a means to explore new technologies and build momentum, and to use data to optimize business processes and increase connectivity throughout WSC, from the headquarters in New Providence to every satellite office. As such, an IT committee has been formed to drive the process. They have been mandated to implement a document management system. And Mr. Speaker, thus far the following has been completed: modernization and total revamp of the call center, a procurement portal, www.wsc.procureware.com, which will standardize all procurement activities for WSC, automation of human resources, processes, automation of payroll and finance, which is ongoing, smartphone meter reading, that's using the smartphones, not the smart meters, increased daily and weekly reporting on all systems, inventory barcoding, digital signatures, a mobile app, website design, and active KPI dashboards. I believe that you cannot manage what you cannot measure. We've also developed a mobile work order system. Speaker, in the next few weeks, WSC will be issuing RFPs for general insurance, cleaning services, security services, potential solarization, WSC HQ, and RO plants, and so on. Mr. Speaker, I have appointed an industrial relations committee led by General Manager and comprising 2 other executives. That committee is charged with liaising with the unions with a view to having a productive conversation and fostering a harmonious environment. Speaker, let me also note that we are installing GPS on all of our vehicles. And over the next week or two, we'll sign a contract with a supplier that will see GPS apparatuses purchased, the same supplier that we use now, purchased and installed on our heavy equipment and all Family Island vehicles. At present, every one of the vehicles at WSC are tracked. This prohibits abuse, theft, and fosters an environment of greater accountability. I encourage my colleagues to do the same. Mr. Speaker, the Office of the Prime Minister has asked WSC to put in place a plan for potable water connections in the Over the Hill area. We are currently working on a proposal and will be submitting that in short course. Let me also note that we've undertaken a number of sewer improvement works throughout New Providence. Too many Bahamians continue to use pit latrines, that is, outside toilets. In New Providence, the areas with the highest use are Golden Isles with 423 outside toilets, Garden Hills 346, Elizabeth 208, Angleton 115, and Carmichael 108. On the Family Islands, there are 2,345 pet latrines, outside toilets in South Abaco, 2,345. 162 in North Abaco, 92 in Cat Island, 56 in South Andros, and 51 in North Eleuthera, Spanish Wells, and Harbour Island. Mr. Speaker, let me also note, Mr. Speaker, that as a part of our IDB loan, we have a wastewater master plan. As a part of that plan, we've constructed stations in Fox Hill, the Fox Hill wastewater treatment. We've constructed wastewater treatment plants in Fox Hill, Malcolm Park, the Lyndon Finland International Airport, and Flamingo Gardens. Mr. Speaker, these were constructed at a tune of 16 million, at a cost of 16 million, sorry. The full rollout of the New Providence Sewerage Master Plan, Mr. Speaker, will see the installation of an expanded sewer network, and it is projected to cost $640 million. WSC has also had a comprehensive sewer plan for the Over the Hill areas. This plan, which was again paid for by the IDB, calls for the expenditure of $75 million that will include house connections, street sewers, and so on in the Over the Hill area. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I just want to note that we are exploring options in terms of smart metering and prepaid metering. I'll be writing to the minister about that. This would improve meter accuracy and reliability. We've also, I think I should report to this House that following the sabotage of our supply some time ago, the police, Mr. Speaker, I request another few more minutes to wrap up.
Honorable member, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the sabotage to our supply. The police recently questioned 6 WSC employees. We have also made adjustments to persons in terms of a protocol as to who gets valve keys. And we expect to see further police action in short course. We've also instructed our council to pursue civil action in the Gladstone Road wastewater treatment plant as relates to that and the audit report. The police is currently conducting an investigation, and also to pursue persons in the naval-based Eleuthera matter. Mr. Speaker, we have sent 100 accounts to external counsel, sewer and water, and they will be pursuing those outstanding balances in court. As I conclude, Mr. Speaker, I want to note that I'm looking forward to further collaboration with the chairman of BPL. We have been in talks about joint board meetings, working together on automated meter reading, on the commercial offices coordinating and activities, joint shipping to Family Islands, renewable energy, and so on. So that is something that we're looking forward to. And I need to forecast, Mr. Speaker, that WSC is moving, that we are moving to revamp WSC legislation.
Honorable
I
member.
will be speaking more to that shortly.
Your
Mr.
time
Speaker,
has expired.
one last paragraph, Mr. Speaker. Over the last 2 years, I've heard the usual refrain of the opposition. I liken it to a nursery rhyme. You've heard it so much, you know it by heart. Think of the nursery rhyme, maybe Mary Had a Little Lamb. Anytime the side opposite tears down something the government does, they say they started it. Or they woulda, shoulda, coulda, almost did it. They have popularized their political nursery rhyme. The woulda, shoulda, coulda, almost did it. We supposed to do it, but forgotten 5 years rhyme. And so, Mr. Speaker, whilst nothing is perfect, this budget moves us closer to economic and societal standards that we expect. Long Island supports this budget.